welcome to the Kennel Connection training video on what's new in Kennel Connection 7. In this video, we'll be looking at some of the new and improved features in Kennel Connection 7 that you might not recognize if you are upgrading from Kennel Connection 6. If we look at the quick access bar at the top of the screen, the first thing we'll notice that there are some new icons available. First, we have the Twitter and Facebook icons. These will allow you to connect to your Twitter or Facebook account to create social media posts directly from Kennel Connection. Simply click on the Twitter or Facebook icon and enter the message that you wish to post. When you first click on the icons, they will walk you through configuring your Facebook and Twitter account with Kennel Connection, and after that, they will open up right to the message screen. Next, we have the dashboard icon. Clicking on this will open up the new Kennel Connection dashboard. The dashboard will provide you with up-to-the-minute information at a glance regarding your current occupancies and current revenue. As you can see on the left, you will have a list of all pets checking in and checking out today, as well as not picked up and no-shows recorded. At the bottom, you'll have dials indicating the number of pets scheduled and completed. And then under the Revenue tab, we have a pie chart and graph to indicate your total revenue for either the day, week, month, or year. And the bar chart to show total revenue, open invoices, or total bookings for a given day, week, month, or year. To the left, we still have the Client Explorer, which can now be minimized by clicking on the Auto Hide button or the little pin icon. And also now, once the Client Explorer is pinned to the page, we can move the Client Explorer to the other side of the screen, to the top or bottom as well. Under the File tab, if we go to the Setup section, you'll notice that there is now a Packages section. Packages are no longer created and managed in the List section. They are in their own separate area. Selecting Packages will open the Packages screen. And here we have the option to create packages for boarding, grooming, daycare, pet sitting, training, and other packages. One of the long-awaited additions to this section is the training packages, and we can now create training packages for training classes, one-on-one training, and resident training. There have been some modifications to some of these schedules. If we open up the calendar schedule, you'll see that under each tab for the calendar schedule, we now list all reservations in the system. If they are checked in or checked out, the time of the check-in and check-out will appear. If not, we will have the name of the pet on the schedule. Right-clicking on the reservation in the day of the calendar, we can perform actions to the reservation, including opening up the reservation to make modifications to it. Double-clicking on the reservation will still bring up the pet card. To the left, you'll notice we have a new navigation pane for selecting days on the calendar. The monthly view on the left will show the current month and the following 2 months. Using the arrows, we can switch to the next month. And to jump to a month and a day, all we have to do is advance to that month and click on the day. If you look to the right, you'll notice we've added 2 more options to the holiday, vacation, other, and peak designations for days. You can now mark days as the business is closed or that a specific module is closed. Like the other settings, setting a day to be marked as business closed or module closed will result in a prompt appearing when trying to create a reservation on that day, and if you are choosing the module closed option, it'll only appear on the module selected. On the run glance, we've also added the color coding options of the pet arriving in the AM or the PM and departing in the AM or the PM to make it easier to figure out the occupancy of runs when examining the run glance. If we go back down to the Client Explorer, you'll see that we've made some changes to client and pet cards in the system. Customer cards and pet cards now have a center section where you can switch to different areas to track and record information. The left-hand side being for the basic contact information and setup, the right-hand side for the customer picture and other options such as inactive, prospect, and mobile. The prospect option is a new feature. Checking this box will result in the customer being recorded as a prospective customer, and you can run a new report in the report section under the list section to list prospective customers. For mobile grooming users, we've simplified the zone setup in Kennel Connection, so zones are no longer connected directly to the zip code, but you can select a zone for each individual customer based on which zone you want them to be included in. Zone setup is still in the list section, but now selecting a zone for a customer happens here on the customer card. So as you can see in the center for customer info, we've opened up the emergency contacts and all the other contact information is under this section. Pets are in the next area. Then general information, and you'll recognize the tabs here from the old customer card. The financial tab now has invoices and receipts showing directly, and in addition to the discounts tab and the credit card info tab, we now have deposit requirements. So for this customer, we can indicate specific deposits that are required when this customer brings a pet in for a reservation, and this requirement will pop up in an alert when creating a reservation for one of this customer's pets. Then, of course, we still have the contract section, the pet sitting section if you have the pet sitting module, and the packages section. Pet cards also follow this new format. For the pet card, we have the middle section with the additional areas, and then on the left we have all the basic pet information and the owner contact information at the bottom of the left. And then to the right we have the pet picture, services, and check boxes for marking the pet inactive and deceased. We still have our same sections in the middle. We have our notes section, which includes report cards and attached documents. The vaccination section, and then the sections for each module. For the boarding grade, we also have included a field where you can enter reasons for that grade. And we have the grooming section. And you'll notice here, as well as boarding and other sections, that we now have individual warnings for pets for each module in the system. So you can create a warning to appear only when you're creating a grooming appointment, for example, and this alert will not appear when creating a boarding, daycare, or other reservation. Then we have the training section, daycare, and new to the daycare module, when checking the approved for daycare option under the daycare section of the pet card, there is now an option in system options to provide a prompt whenever you create a daycare appointment for a pet that does not have this checkbox approved. We then have the pet settings section, special services section, the services section, and packages, all functioning the way they did in Kennel Connection 6. If we open the list section and go to the weight classes tab, you'll see that in Kennel Connection 7, we now have the option to set weight class rates for grooming services, as well as multi-pet booking rates for multi-pet boarding reservations based on weight class. Previously in Kennel Connection 6, the run setup is the only area where you could enter multi-pet booking discounted rates in boarding, but we've now expanded that to the weight classes as well. If we go to training classes, for those using the training module, you'll find that we've also added setup options to choose which days of the week the class meets, so you're not restricted to the same day every week. And we've also set up an option to allow drop-ins for ongoing classes where pets can come in for a single class at random. On services setups, such as feedings, exercises, and medications, we've added the option to charge for the service by the day or by the service. This will come in most useful for feedings. So if you're scheduling 2 or 3 feedings a day, you can choose whether you're charging by feeding or for any day in which feedings are scheduled. And on the medication tab, we have the option to print the entire medication list. For our mobile grooming users, the Zones tab, you'll see the new setup for zones, where all you're really doing here is creating the zones that you want to assign customers to, and then choosing the color you want to assign to each zone. And in the referrals section, when adding referrals to the lists, you can also choose whether a referral is a client. Another change from the setup section we'll find in the inventory section. We've added the option to include multiple vendors for inventory items, so that way when creating purchase orders in Kennel Connection, you can now create purchase orders to order inventory items from different vendors. And we've also added invoice message for individual inventory items to be included on the invoice when these items are invoiced. Now we're going to take a look at the system options section and go through some of the additional settings there. Now, just as the track deleted reservations option would allow us to choose whether or not deleted reservations remain on the schedule, we can do the same thing for canceled reservations. So unchecking the box for track canceled reservations will result in them not showing on the schedule. We've also included an option to use employee schedule, so you can choose whether or not you want prompts when creating a reservation that the employee is not scheduled for the time the reservation is being created for. And we've also added a backup reminder that appears whenever you close Kennel Connection. If you don't wish to be reminded to back up your database, you can check this box. And we have the option to automatically assign confirmation numbers when reservations are created. In the boarding section, we now have the option to show belongings screen at checkout. When you check a pet out, if there is a belongings report filled out for that pet, it will pop up to show on the screen. This was a default in Kennel Connection 6, but now in Kennel Connection 7, you have the option to turn this off. For Daycare, as I mentioned before, we have the option now to show warning if a pet is not approved for daycare when making a daycare reservation. And for Daycare, we also have the option to show belongings screen at checkout. Since we now have packages available for the training module, the section for the training module and system options has the option to apply negative packages for one-on-one, classes, or residential training, as well as the option to apply resident training packages for only the training or for the boarding and the training. On the local tab, we now have the option to change the colors in Kennel Connection instead of just choosing a patterned background. So we can switch from a gradient to a solid color option, and then we can choose the colors that will appear at the top and bottom and for text. If we go to the Schedule tab and click on the boarding module, you'll notice that the schedules look a little bit different, including new icons, and in some cases there might be new or changed color coding. For example, we have a new color coding for the boarding schedule to indicate that a pet has been picked up after its deadline pickup. In some cases, you'll also notice additional items added to the sort order. When creating reservations for boarding, you now have the option to get the last run the pet was in. Next, on the grooming schedule, when creating a grooming reservation, we now have the option to save multiple pictures for the pet. So groomers can take pictures of pets after services and preserve them for future reference. While this option was added primarily for the grooming module, it is available on all modules, so each module you do have the option to include multiple pictures of the pet. The ability to add these multiple pictures is also available on the pet card itself. One new addition to accounting in Kennel Connection 7, if we go to accounting and then go to receipts, we have added the option to refund deposits or prepayments. To do so, you'll scroll down through your receipts section and find your prepayment or deposit. Here it says prepayment yes, and if we open up this receipt, we now have the option to the left to refund the prepayment. These are just some of the new additions and modifications to the Kennel Connection program in Kennel Connection 7. If you have any other questions regarding Kennel Connection 7, please feel free to contact us directly. You can do so by contacting the sales department for purchasing information, or you can contact the training department with additional questions about setup and usage of some of these new features.